right, so I've got this lovely head. Let's start scratching. So I'm going to go right into this back neck area here and quickly checking my drawing. Because I actually used photographic reference for the position of this character, I didn't want to bring in that photographic reference. So what I decided to do, I have little L's here and little MLs and little sort of notifications that I've actually put in here. L would be lights, ML, medium light. I'm trying to give myself some tonal inclinations. MDs are medium darks. So I've sort of broken this figure up into different areas to help me out with my tones. So I've got my Scratchboard tool. With your Scratchboard knife, you do want to keep it with the beveled edges, as the woman said in her crazy little demo the other week. You want to keep those facing down. So you don't want to have it like this, where you have your bevel edge sort of facing upward. You want that facing downward so that your tool is pointing forward. So that's how to actually use that, and use it just like a pencil. Again, we're going to dive right into the back here, and I'm just going to check to see what value I have back there. And it looks like we've got a little bit of a light going on in there. And that's good to be mindful of, because you really are working in reverse of how you normally work. So generally, as an artist, when you go in to render something, you're adding shadow. You're adding values to it that are shadow-based, generally. We're working in an opposite fashion with Scratchboard, and we are adding our light tones to it, because our darkest dark is already the black of the board. I'm just going to start to etch in some of this shoulder blade over here. I should say trapezius muscle. And I'm just using a little bit of sort of parallel lines and just leading that up the neck, something like that. And just clean up that edge a little bit. Again, you will be able to go over this at the end and clean that up even further, just to sort of get some of that gunk out of there. So we've started, and if you notice, this is an organic form here. Now I know you guys are doing robots for this next project, which may mean that you're just going to have very sort of flat, parallel lines, because you don't have to turn the form in any way. I decided to go a little more organic. I feel more comfortable drawing organic forms, so that's how I rolled with this piece. So again, with these marks, if I wanted to, let's say, create a highlight area as I'm turning that neck form, I'm just going to go over it with my scratch tool. We're good? All right, we're good. So right there, right near the edging, I don't have any other Scratchboard lines in here. This is the only area that has any sort of Scratchboard action going on. So that makes life a little bit easier as well, in that I'm not in competition with any other lines, which is kind of cool. As soon as you have more lines built up on your Scratchboard, you're going to have to start changing your board direction a heck of a lot. So there we go. Created a little bit of a highlight area on that neckline. There we go. That's a much better edge. So that's me beginning to turn that form on this lady. Again, I'm trying to pay attention to how I'm turning the form. What way do I need to roll with my parallel lines to get this form to turn? So her head is curving sort of to the right and down, so that's how I want to continue with my lines, just to follow that motion of this head. I'm using this right now on its side because I want to use the carving edge. Carving edge. There we go. Carving edge. All right. So using it on its side somewhat like that, I'm getting to use this carving edge instead of just the scraping tip. All right. So carving edge. And I'm just going to move right now into that facial area, leading into my lighter values. And it is going to be a little bit of a difficult situation to see some of your lines due to the bad chalk transfers, So I'm just going to flip up in here and look at some of my original shapes. Okay, that's what's going on. I've got a little bit more shape in there than I thought. Hard to tell with that. That's why I say to do all the transfer at one time, and you can have your reference right beside you. It makes life a little bit easier. In order to not create too many bright highlight areas in between where I'm butting up my two parallel lines, what I'm doing is I'm just not going over these lines that I had put in front. I just started dragging out new lines from that sort of back part of the ear. What you may want to do too after you do your transfer with this horrible chalk thing, and again, I'm sorry I couldn't find transfer paper, is that you guys might want to go in with a Q-tip and clean up some of these areas. So right in there in the face, I'm starting to see that I went a little bit too heavy in certain areas. These lines aren't quite meeting up, couldn't quite tell because of the sort of a chalk situation there. So I'm going to show you a couple different ways of fixing it. So the first way would be that India ink stuff, right? So we've got this first. And remember when you open these things that sometimes there's a bubble? You are just going to dip your stylus in. Because it's a small area, I don't want to use a brush right off the bat unless the stylus doesn't do the trick. So let's see if the stylus can do it. I'm going to go into the face again and try to fix some of these boo-boo areas. So anywhere where I'm seeing things being way too light, I am literally going to paint them back black. Right where these, it's sort of, that's exactly what you're doing with it, which is why Scratchboards are after ink projects. Now that you guys are all professionale about ink, my quill is a little bit too small for this work, so I'm going to go with my brush instead. Don't have to, okay, don't have to dip the brush in a heck of a lot. Sorry, there we go. Again, just a little bit goes a long way. So there we go, just got my tip. And we can go back into this area and just repaint the black. Again, I haven't done a lot of line work right now, so it's a lot easier for me to actually repaint this black. Just going to try to dampen out that edge a little bit. Don't want it to be too powerful. Yeah, we're just going to give that a second.